This book's title might not seem like much to argue about, but its simplicity is deceptive. To say a history rather than the history of Russia already hints at uncertainty and argument, reminding us that when we tell the story of the past as history, we are always interpreting, even when facts and fairness are a historian's first principles, as the late Professor Nicholas Riasanovsky made the hallmark of this work since his first edition in 1963. And what about of Russia? What does it mean to trace the origins of a nation and an empire back into the lives of people before the concepts of nation and empire existed, and even before the arrival from the north of people known as the capital Rus, pronounced Rus, a likely origin for the later name Russia? What does it mean for us to group many different ethnicities, cultures, and identities, modern categories, under the heading Russia? Is this a type of historical imperialism, of conquest backward through time, as Ukrainians and others have argued? For Russia did not simply become a multi-ethnic empire as it expanded geographically. Its history began as a multi-ethnic story, and an unstable one at that. And the history of unification and expansion was marked by benefits and progress, but also violence, inequality, and discrimination. If a country's history is a story of the connections of a given present to a past that people identify as their own, as Nicholas Riasanovsky often insisted in successive editions of this book, the specifics of how we construct those continuities are arguments. The devil is always in the detail. And while we must seek connections through time, we must also see the many divergent possibilities and directions in the past. Before we speak of the peoples of the lands to be called Russia, we must think of the land itself, of the geographic and natural environments people experienced and worked, that shaped them and that they shaped. Of enormous importance was a vast northern Eurasian landmass with few barriers to migration, invasion, and expansion, leitmotifs in the history of this region. The great bulk of what became the Russian Empire is a broad plain, extending from Central Europe deep into Siberia. Although numerous hills and chains of hills are scattered on its surface, they are not high enough or sufficiently massed to interfere appreciably with the flow of the mighty plain or the ease of moving across it. The Ural Mountains, ancient and weather-beaten, constitute no effective barrier between Europe and Asia which they separate. Besides, a broad gap of steppe land remains between the southern tips of the Ural chain and the Caspian and Aral seas. Impressive mountain ranges are restricted to what would become borderlands, including the Carpathians to the southwest, the high Caucasian chain in the south between the Black Sea and the Caspian, and the Pamir, Tian Shan, and Altai ranges farther east along the southern border. Human movement across the Eurasian plain has been aided by numerous rivers and lakes that connect regions, transport people, and provide resources.